That's right. Week 14 is upon us. It's KVK time, baby. So, without further ado, let's introduce our analyst. First up, Kyle. What's up?
What's going on, guys? It's Kyle. I know you'll all be a little bit disappointed to hear that KJ is not with us this week. Apparently, he's sick, but I think it's more of that the fact that I knocked him out of the playoffs in our personal fantasy league. So I think he's away with some tears in the corner.
Oh, oh boy. All right. Well, I guess you can swing all you want because KJ's not here to swing back. So, I'm in the field representing for KJ this week. Chris.
Hey guys, it's Chris here, going to be filling in for KJ because he's gone. Hopefully I can read off of this lovely script that he gave me to tell you exactly what he would say. So let's see how it goes.
All right, let's see if he gets any telephone action on that, if it comes through properly. So, without further ado, since we're without KJ, let's go ahead and get right into it. Why not? Plan C's starts versus our sits. So, like we like to do, let's take a look at our Week 14 starts and sits. All right, so even though KJ's not here, he did submit a nice list for you guys to take a look at. All right, so since we only have one person to talk to right now, Kyle, you have first dibs. Looking at your list, who's your top sit and start?
All right, so just to go off of what Chris just said, I know Chris says that he's just going off of what KJ wrote down. I just want to let all of our fans know that Chris isn't actually Chris is smarter than the stuff that he's about to say in fantasy football. So just because he's talking like KJ, don't take everything he says to heart. But all right, starting off for me this week, and this is a guy I can't believe I'm actually saying to start, but we're in desperation mode, we're in playoff mode. Eli Manning is a guy I'm definitely going to start this week. I know that sounds ridiculous, but his last 10 games, besides that one 5-interception game, which was awful, besides that game, he's had 12 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. So it's not bad. He's going up against a Tennessee defense that just gave up 6 touchdown passes to Ryan Fitzpatrick. So I think that the Tennessee has nothing to play for. The Giants had nothing to play for. This will probably be a high-scoring game. Both defenses are pretty terrible. So I would definitely give Eli a shot if you're worrying about your normal starter this week. And then on the sit side, I'm going to go and sit Mike Evans. This guy has been a big commodity lately. He's coming on strong. But he's going against Detroit. I know that they gave up some points the last time they were out. But Mike Evans, he went on a roll for a little bit. He had 4 straight games with 7 catches. But his last 2 games combined, he's only had 7 catches and no touchdowns. So I would definitely sit Mike Evans if you have some better options going against Detroit. They're the second best in the league against wide receivers. So sit Mike Evans this week if you can.
All right, I hear you. I unfortunately do have to agree with you on playing Eli Manning against Tennessee because our teams are getting close to the playoffs right now. They're fighting for playoff spots, and those teams aren't. So you know what they're doing? They're fighting for a job next year. Coughlin is fighting for a job next year. Rex Ryan's fighting for a job next year. So those are the kind of teams you want to look out for the guys that are kind of scrapping at the.
Eli's fighting for his job, too.
Oh, he sure is. That team could probably just go on a fire sale tomorrow. So we'll see what happens with them. All right, so Chris is going to go ahead in representation of KJ with his top start. Sit.
All right, so again, talking for KJ, his first start is Jordan Matthews. He points out Jordan Matthews is not an outside receiver. He gets his yardage where Seattle is weaker, between the hashes. The word on the street is that Chip is going to challenge Sherman, but if that doesn't go well, he should look to exploit Matthews against the smaller Earl Thomas. And I'm actually going to give you 2 starts and 2 sits quickly because I'm not able to go at Kyle's picks like Kyle is going to be able to go at whatever KJ says. So his second start is Travis Kelce. So he says, Kelce has been pretty bad for 3 straight weeks despite the talent we know he has. Luckily, Arizona has been bad against tight ends for 3 years running. With Tyrann Mathieu being out, the Cardinals won't have a safety that can cover Kelsey. I don't like Arizona's defense this week, and I see them dropping this game to a KC team that's looking to remain in the wild card hunt. And now,
Go ahead with the sitch.
to the sit. First, Matt Ryan. He had a good week. He had a good game, in week 13, but it was at home where he balls out. Balls out. KJ quote. Now he is going to the tundra that is Lambeau. Oh, it's against Green Bay. I could have said this. He's going to get destroyed. Even if Roddy White plays, I expect for this game to get out of hand quickly with their vanilla defense. Even garbage time production won't help a day with 3 picks. Stay away from Matty Ice in the cold.
Okay, all right. So we'll just go ahead and throw this to Kyle. Your thoughts on who you kind of turning down on that one?
Well, there's a couple things that I could say about that, but first I'm going to go with the fact that if you looked at KJ's list, he is sitting Jeremy Maclin, but he's starting Jordan Matthews. So I understand what he's saying about Matthews being the guy in between the numbers, but Sherman's not going to be on Maclin the whole game. He's a guy that plays one side of the field, not one player. And if you watch Sherman in the past, he is a guy that's not so good against the smaller, quicker types. Maclin is that kind of guy that can get around him and go deep. So I definitely think he's going to get a couple of chunks on like 1 or 2 catches where he can get about 30, 40 yards on each catch. So I don't agree with sitting Maclin and starting Matthews. If I had either two, I would go with Maclin here. And also, I just wanted to say that I know, KJ, you're at home, you don't feel good. I just wanted to let you know that I do agree with you on Matt Ryan. I think he's going to have an awful game. I think that Green Bay defense surprisingly made Tom Brady look pretty average in that second half. So I think that they're going to continue to do more of the same against Matt Ryan, who definitely is not up to Tom Brady's par.
All right, sounds good. All right, while we're talking about sits and major sits, one major sit that everybody's going to point out, looking at Kyle's list, is Julius Thomas. Julius Thomas. Why are we sitting Julius Thomas, Kyle?
Well, if you look at my list, I actually have a lot of big names that I'm sitting this week. The reason why is either injuries or because this is the first playoff week in your league. That's what I'm going with here. If Julius Thomas is on your team, you're definitely a little nervous right now because he was a game-time decision last week. He didn't end up playing. He's probably going to be a game-time decision again. So if you have him, you should have Jacob Tamby on your team just in case. But either way, even if Julius Thomas plays, 3 of his last 4 games that he did play, he's had 2 catches or less. So he's not really lighting it up right now. I don't know if it's because of the injury, but just because he's a game-time decision doesn't mean that if he does play, he's going to be at 100%. So I would definitely stay away from him if you have some better option. Maybe you were lucky enough to pick up Travis Kelce during the season. Like KJ said, I would start him over Julius Thomas this week.
That's absolutely true. And then you don't know how Peyton's diagram is working, who he's going to, who he's not going to. I mean, Emmanuel Sanders, what happened? That's another question. All right, for another day. All right, so we'll go ahead and move it along to our sleepers. So, like to do, go ahead and show you a list from last week. How these sleepers performed for these guys. All right, looks like Kyle edged out this week. All right, nice and good. So, Kyle, while you have the floor, who was your number 1 and your negative 1?
All right, so my top success, I didn't have great success here, but I didn't have really bad failure either. Teddy Bridgewater was my guy last week. Minnesota played against Carolina, and Carolina is just, I guess, everyone gets really excited when they see Carolina on their schedule because they're just a walking mediocrity right now. He had 18 points in standard leagues. He had 2 touchdown passes. Probably could have had more, but they were really kind of done throwing the ball after the second punt block return for a touchdown, which was just ridiculous. If you had the Vikings D, congratulations. And then my fail, and I had a couple, but I'm going to go with Kenny Britt just because the Rams scored 52 points against the Oakland Raiders, and you couldn't get more than 2 fantasy points. Same thing with Jared Cook. What happened? If you started him, he got 0 points. These guys scored 52 points. Where were these guys? But I guess Stedman Bailey and Trey Mason kind of stole the show there. But I would definitely say my fail was Kenny Britt.
Oh, absolutely. Seriously, they need to kind of Yahoo, ESPN, all of you guys, just disable Kenny Britt and Jared Cook. Just disable them. Nobody's gonna pick them up anymore. Just it's poison right now. All right, so representing KJ, Chris.
All right, guys. So for KJ's last week, his good pick, kind of, was Zach Mettenberger. He said it was a good pick of the week until he got hurt. He looked like he was on his way to another 20-point game, but then he hurt his arm. And then to his letdown,
Zach Mettenberger.
His letdown was Eric Ebron. He said he had half the targets he had in Week 12, and the receivers were the focus of the air attack in Week 13.
Let's see. So, Kyle, your thoughts on his performance?
I would just like to say that thank you, KJ, because I started Eric Ebron in one of my leagues last week, and he didn't do me too much good. Fortunately for me, my team actually exploded and went for 211 points in that league. But Ebron would have been nice, get a couple extra points from him, but didn't turn out the way me or KJ hoped on that one. Otherwise, the fact that Mettenberger, guy that only played about a half, was your fantasy sleeper success is speaking volumes to your fantasy sleeper ability.
Absolutely, and I'd just like to talk to one other tight end, Jimmy Graham. Big fat donut. Big fat donut. Super annoying.
Big fat donut in targets, too, which is just 0 targets. I don't understand.
It seemed, watching the game, it just seemed like they were there. I don't know. It's unexplainable at this point. And who knows, next week he could go off for 4 touchdowns. Knowing New Orleans. So upset. All right.
All right, guys. So from KJ against Kyle's list, he says that technically, Cincy's defense isn't a sleeper. They're owned in 63% of leagues, which means, according to the rules, they're not a sleeper. LOL.
Kyle, your response.
Well, I don't know what leagues KJ is playing in. Maybe I don't know, but they're under 50% in ESPN leagues, and I'm pretty sure that's the league we play in. So I'm just going to go with ESPN on this one and say that Cincinnati's Bengals are a sleeper defense, and thank you for I believe it was 8 standard points. Not great, but pretty good for an average defense, I would say.
An average to a sleeper defense, I'd say. All right. So go ahead and take a look at the Week 14 sleepers from KJ and Kyle. Have a look. All right. Another interesting matchup for the week. Let's see how these guys perform. So let's go ahead and go to Chris this time in representation of KJ. Yeah, who's his standout sleepers of the week, Week 14?
All right, so KJ's first standout sleeper of the week is Kyle Orton. Back to, I think, our first video, start your Bills. Start your Bills. He said Orton has cooled off a bit from the good start he made with Buffalo, but this week's matchup screams garbage time production. Remember, Orton once called Denver home. So I think this return, coupled with Talib possibly missing another week, and some dark horse weapons like Chandler and Woods, I think Orton will be a nice 25-point replacement for a Matt Ryan or a Cam Newton, Kyle, owner who is scared to start their stud.
Wow. That is cutthroat if I've ever heard it. I mean, Kyle Orton, he's probably going to see Mettenberger numbers, but Go ahead, Kyle.
I would just like to say that I do understand Kyle Orton. He is coming back for his revenge in Denver, and it's going to be so sweet as a Denver fan to watch him fall flat on his face. Um, did KJ say Scott Chandler and weapon in the same sentence? Because I don't think Scott Chandler would even understand what that means. But I do have Robert Woods in my sleeper stats here. He does have 11 catches for 190 yards in his last 2 games. I think that he will have a chance to have a nice game because they might have to play catch up against the Broncos. But Kyle Orton, no chance. Even if Aqib Talib isn't playing, Chris Harris has been an underrated top cornerback in this league, and I think that he's starting to get noticed now with Talib out. I want to go to my top sleeper of the week, along with Robert Woods, is a guy that is finally, I think, the clear-cut number 1 running back in Carolina, and that is Jonathan Stewart. D'Angelo Williams is dealing with a broken finger right now, so he's day-to-day. Jonathan Stewart got about 7 yards per carry in his last 2 games. He's going against New Orleans defense, which is the 26th ranked defense in fantasy football against opposing running backs. I don't think they're really trusting Cam Newton to throw the ball anymore. He looks like he's regressing along with a lot of other passing and running quarterbacks like Robert Griffin and Colin Kaepernick. So I definitely think that Jonathan Stewart would be a nice little find here, especially if you're looking for some running back depth for the playoffs.
All right, and I believe Chris has one more top sleeper from KJ.
I do, and his name is Stedman Bailey. So, lots of people drafted Tavon Austin late and thought he was a huge boom or a bust candidate. His season has been a bust. But Stedman Bailey, Tavon's teammate since college, has had 2 back-to-back good weeks acting as the number 1 target of Sean Hill. Look for the Rams to use Bailey in the short intermediate game against a weak secondary from Washington.
All right, that's definitely a sleeper. All right, so
I would just like to add that you don't get to play the Oakland Raiders every week. He did have 5 catches for 100 yards, all in the first quarter. So 3 quarters, no catches for Stedman Bailey. So I think he's just as much of a boom or bust as Tavon Austin is. So if you're betting on your fantasy playoffs, I'd be a little careful going with Stedman Bailey as well.
yeah, it's gonna be a risky week if you go with Stedman. But there you have it. Those are our sleepers for the week. Enjoy. So, as we do after every single episode, go to our viewers. For the people, Chris Gordon.
All right, back doing my normal job now for the people. From the people. First question is, well, I guess they'll all just go directed at Kyle. So, Kyle, your 3 questions this week. First, Kyle Rudolph versus the New York Jets or Heath Miller at the Cincinnati Bengals.
All right, Kyle.
You mean Kyle Rudolph, the red zone reindeer?
Yes, I do. I was stuttering trying to think of what your nickname was, so thank you for calling that out.
I would just like to say that the man did get in the end zone last week. He is fulfilling his name again. Heath Miller's going against a Bengals defense that, like KJ said, apparently isn't a sleeper defense anymore, so be careful there. I'm going to go with the red zone reindeer here, and hopefully he gets back in the end zone. Jets are terrible, so it's pretty good thought there. It's tough either way, but I'd say Teddy Bridgewater is getting a little bit more trust with Kyle Rudolph now that he's been in a couple games. So go Rudolph this week.
All right, I hear you on that. We'll even see if Roethlisberger gets his mojo back against a little more average defense. So, all right, Chris.
All right, second question. Brandon LaFell at San Diego or Joique Bell versus Tampa Bay?
All right, Kyle.
It's always tough for me to pick a wide receiver over a running back, just because you always have the guaranteed touches when you're a running back. But in Detroit's case, it's really hard to tell what running back is going to get the ball. Even though Bell's basically the guy now, their game plan sometimes gets away from the running backs. I love Brandon LaFell. He's basically Tom Brady's red zone target. I know Gronk is always the man there, but LaFell always seems to be the guy that is open on a quick slant when Tom Brady's close to the end zone. He had 2 touchdown catches last week. He's definitely gained Tom Brady's trust, and the way that Tom Brady's been playing, if you have his trust, you're going to get a ton of targets. So basically, that's guaranteed touches for LaFell as well. So I would definitely go with the hot hand, and I'd go with Brandon LaFell here.
Well said. All right, so back to Chris.
All right, the last question of the day must come from someone who is winning in their fantasy league. So, how am I supposed to spend my bye week? Kyle, any suggestions for this man?
Man, spend your bye week. Not all of us are as lucky as you, sir, to be able to be on a bye week during your first round of the fantasy playoffs. But I would say don't watch how your team does, because you're going to be really pissed off if your team has gone off this week when you're on a bye, which unfortunately might happen, because if you're on a bye, that means your team's very good. So don't pay attention to what your team's doing or what your score would have been, because it's just going to get you aggravated. Maybe you go watch what's happening with Ray Rice. Maybe you want to pick him up for keeper next year. You never know. But definitely don't pay attention to your team this week. It's just going to drive you crazy.
All right, so Chris.
All right, guys, so thank you for all of you that posted your questions and watched the video. Again, on Facebook, we are The Ultimate Plan B. On Twitter and Instagram, Ultimate Plan B. Please find us, follow, like on YouTube /Ultimate Plan B. Please subscribe. Ask your questions, and we'll have them answered on the show.
All right, and before we send it off, we do have a nice little teaser to show off for tomorrow night. We actually have a new series to premiere. Really excited about that. We have new faces coming in. Stay tuned to our Facebook, our Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, MySpace, Friendster. Swipe right on Tinder if you have us. It's gonna be a treat.
Bro, you're on Tinder with Ultimate Plan B?
Yeah, we are. We are now.
It's all 4 of our faces.
It's just all smushed together.
Yes.
All right, so yeah, catch Chris Gordon. He's dropping Far Cry gameplay videos almost every other day. I'm gonna hold him to it, but he's dropping a lot of good stuff for you guys. So
Another good one on the way. Ro, you got Grand Theft Auto.
Grand Theft Auto is popping off. I have an old clan from old 360 days. We're getting back together. A lot of teasers are coming with that one too. It's gonna be a lot of fun. KJ is sick. We do wish him the best. Come back stronger. Strong picks. Maybe get that win in the sleepers round. We'll see what happens with him. So wish him the best. Last words, Kyle?
Yeah, I would like to wish KJ the best too. I'll send him a get well soon card, because I don't want him to be so discouraged from his previous loss to me in our fantasy league. So, KJ, buddy, please get better. I need someone here to make fun of more often. It's not as easy making fun of you when you're not here, so please come back.
All right. So, Chris, in the words of KJ, what would KJ say right now?
I don't know, man. Probably something witty in one of his accents, and I tried to come up. Oh man, I feel like I let him down. I'm sorry, bud. I'm sorry. But yes, please feel better. You sounded god awful when we spoke to you quickly before, so feel better. And looking forward to the next Kyle versus KJ.
All right. So until next week, we'll see you in the playoffs.